Good morning, everyone. I am teacher Jarrett, and today we are going to be reading a story. The story today doesn't have a title page, so we are just going to start reading, okay? So, let's start our story. They broke up into teams. One side had birds, or animals with wings. The other side had animals with legs, but they did not have wings. So it looks like we have a team with no wings. Remember, wings are what birds have to fly, right? And then there was a team with wings. So here's the team with wings, okay? So the next page says, the animals who did not have wings were big and fast. They could toss a ball a long way and run like the wind. So if they run like the wind, that means they run very fast, right? Because if you think about the wind goes so fast, right? Okay, let's go to the next page. The birds were fast, but not as big. Yet with their wings, they could carry a ball way up in the air. The animals with the legs could not jump up and grab it. So the birds could fly very high, right? So if the birds were flying up here and the animals were down here, they couldn't jump up to grab it, right? Because the bird was so high, flying in the sky. So we learn the word carry, right? Carry means to grab something and move it, okay? Okay, let's go to the next page. At last, game day came. The animals and birds met on the playing field. Both teams felt very excited. "We will win!" came the calls. So the birds and the animals with no wings came to the field to play their game. Both sides thought they would win. Just then, an animal with 4 very little legs stepped up. It was a gray bat. He went to the animals. Here's the gray bat. See? He's got his little wings, but he also has feet and big ears, right? "Can I play on this team?" he asked. "You are much too small to play," laughed the animals. "And look at those little legs. We can't win with you." "I may be little," said Gray Bat, "but I can do lots of things." So see, here's the big animals with legs. And they looked at the little bat and said, "You're too small." But sometimes small animals or small people can do amazing things, right? So let's see the next page. Next, Gray Bat went to the birds. "Can I play on this team?" he asked. The birds shook their heads. "Our team has wings," they explained. So our means their group, right? Our means them, their group. "But the animals say I'm not big and can't play with them," said Gray Bat. So now Gray Bat can't play with the animals and he can't play with the birds. So what do you think he's going to do? Let's go to the next page. Then Blue Jay spoke up. "Maybe there is a way for Gray Bat to play with us." "Tell us about it," said Raven. "We can give him wings," said Blue Jay. "That is splendid," Cardinal exclaimed. So the cardinal and the raven and the blue jay had ideas to give Gray Bat some wings. So remember, we learned the word about. That means to concern something, or to be information for something, right? So when they say tell us about it, they want to know more about it, which is the idea. We can give him wings. And now remember, give means you take something and let another person have it for free. You don't ask for any money or anything in return. That's different from buying something, right? When you buy or when you sell something, you give someone something and they give you money. If you give, you just let that person have it. And then this word is splendid. Splendid means really great, or really awesome, or really incredible, right? So they're saying it's a very good idea. So the birds took the skin off the top of a big drum. Then they took sticks and made special wings for Gray Bat. So special means it's only for him. They're not something that you can find everywhere. It's one of a kind. "Let's see if he can fly," said Blue Jay. Gray Bat flapped his wings. He went zig and zag. He could not go in a line like a real bird. So when he flew, he went left and then right and left and right. Whereas birds can just fly in a straight line, right? Yeah. "That's the best I can do," Gray Bat said and smiled. So he showed them that he could use the wings to fly, right? But just in a zigzag, not in a straight line. So then the birds said, "Just sit and wait until we need you," said the birds. So Gray Bat got to be on the birds' team, right? So they helped him have the tools he needed in order to be on their team. At last, the game began. The animals and birds played their best to win. The ball zipped up and down. Gray Bat just sat and waited. So here's the animals. The ball is going all over the place. When the end of the game was close, each team had 8 points. Gray Bat still had not played. With a little time left, the animals took the ball and ran with it. So remember, 8 is a number, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the game was almost over and Gray Bat was still hanging there. He didn't move. So finally, the animals got the ball. So the bear and the rabbit and the coyote. Just then, Gray Bat stood up. "Let me help," he said. He flew up, up, up with his special wings. He grabbed the ball and carried it in his zigzag way. The animals could not catch him. So the animals were running with the ball, but Gray Bat grabbed the ball, and then he would zig and zag and zig and zag, right? Just like this. Zig, zag, zig, zag, zig, zag. And so because he wasn't flying in a straight line, the animals didn't know where he was going to fly, and they couldn't catch him. "We win!" yelled the birds. "Gray Bat did it!" To this day, Gray Bat plays on the bird team. He flies in his own way. And that is how the bat got wings. So this is a folk tale, right? This is a story that's fictional, but it explains something that happened in nature, right? So why something is the way it is in nature. Okay, so let's go to the next page. About the author. About the author. Gerald McDermott, who is the author of this story, says, "Animals, animals, animals. I love to draw them jumping and hopping and flying across the pages of my books. You can draw animals too." Gerald McDermott has illustrated folk tales starring interesting animals from all over the world. Wow. So this is Gerald McDermott. He's the author, but he also drew all of the pictures, right? And so he likes to illustrate folk tales, which are stories that are fiction that explain the way something is in nature, right? Or they teach us a lesson. And he's drawing animals from all over the world. So from China or Africa or America or South America, he's drawn animals from all over. So let's see, author's purpose. Now remember, the author's purpose is the reason why he wanted to draw the pictures and write this story, right? Yeah. So Gerald McDermott wanted to retell an old folk tale. Think of a story about an animal. Draw the animal in your story. Write about it. So now it's your turn to think about an animal and write about it, right? So maybe you could write about a raccoon, right? So I'll just give you an example, okay? So a raccoon, oops, a raccoon. Okay, so raccoon. We can use raccoon as our example. Okay, so I typed this up before, so I'm just going to paste it in and then we can read it together, okay? So this example can be that the raccoon used to have a regular face with no black mask. So if you look up raccoon on Google or Bing or Baidu, you can see the raccoon has a mask, right? It's black, so you almost can't see his eyes. Then one day he went out at night to find food, but everyone saw him coming and ran away. So if everyone ran away, he can't ask anyone for food, right? So then he decided to put on a mask to hide in the dark so he could sneak up and get the food, right? So this is not a true story. This is a folktale, right? But it's a funny way to talk about a reason that the raccoon got his mask. So now it's your turn to think of an animal and write a story and tell why that animal is the way it is. Okay? So now let's go to the next page. Okay, we are doing respond to reading. So retell. Use your own words to retell how Bat got its wings in order. So we will do a first, next, then last chart. Okay? So let's let's make our chart. We can put our arrows in. Okay, so now first, what happened? Oops, let's use black. First, first, animals and birds wanted to play a game. Bat asked the animals if he could be on their team, but they told him it's too small to play with them, right? So let's make this bigger. Okay. So we know that first, the animals and birds wanted to play a game. Bat asked the animals if he could be on their team, but they told him he was too small to play with them, right? Okay, so let's see what happens next. Next, Bat asked the birds if he could be on their team. At first, they said no, but then someone had an idea, right? So let's see, who had an idea? Here, Blue Jay spoke up. We can give him wings, said Blue Jay. Right? So at first the bird said no because Bat didn't have any wings. But then the Blue Jay had the idea that they could give him wings, right? But then Blue Jay had the idea to give Bat his wings, right? So then what happened next? So then Bat got his wings, but could only fly in a zigzag pattern, right? He couldn't fly straight. The birds told him to sit on the side and wait, right? So he couldn't fly straight, and so the birds just told him, sit over there, and then you can play when we need you, right? And so then at the very end, what happened? Yes, the last gray bat found a chance to fly and grab the ball and win the game, right? So last, at the very end, Gray Bat flew and grabbed the ball and then flew in a zigzag pattern, and no one could catch him, and the birds won the game, right? Yeah. So that is how we can retell the story. So if you want to, you can pause now and practice retelling the story again. But now it is time to answer some questions, okay? Okay. Okay, so now let's make our question box. So we are going to answer some questions. 1. What happens when Gray Bat asks to play with the birds? So what happens, oops, on the last question, when I wrote here, I spelled gray with an E. Make sure when you spell gray, you use G-R-A-Y, okay? Okay. So, what happens when Gray Bat asks to play with the birds? So we talked about that in our next page, right? In our next square. So, at first, the birds tell him he cannot play with them because he doesn't have wings, right? So when Gray Bat asks to play with the birds, they tell him, no, you cannot play with us because you don't have wings, right? So let's go to question 2. Question 2 is, what is the last thing that happens in this story? Well, before we go there, let's see, finish this. So they tell him he can't play with them because he doesn't have wings, right? But then Blue Jay has the idea to give Gray Bat some wings. So they make the wings for him, right? And so the last thing that happens in this story is what? The last thing is that the birds win, right? The birds won the game. So we can say the last thing that happens in this story is that Gray Bat grabs the ball and scores the winning point for the birds, right? So then the birds won the game, right? So the lesson, and here's our next question. Our next question is, how can you tell that the story How Bat Got Its Wings is a folktale? So we know that it is a folktale because it's fiction, right? We know that birds can't talk to animals, and we know that most of the time animals and birds don't play games with each other, right? So that's how we know it's a folktale, or we know that it's fiction, but we know it's a folktale because, how do we know? Because it teaches us a lesson, right? So the animals told the bat to go away. They didn't want to help him. But the birds wanted to help the bat so that he could fly and play the game with them. And then the bat was able to help the birds win, right? So the birds made a good choice by helping the bat. The bat was happier and the birds won the game, right? So let's write that down. We can tell this is a folktale because it is fiction. Birds and animals talk talk in real life. Don't play ball. And they usually, some birds and animals can be trained to play, but they usually, not in nature, they don't play with balls. We learned that, you can say this story taught us that if we help others, we also can help ourselves, right? So if we help others, like the birds help the bat to fly, we also help ourselves because then the birds won the game, right? So, for example, maybe you see an old person in your neighborhood, right? And that old person needs help climbing the stairs or needs help crossing the street, right? So if you help that old person climb the stairs or go across the street, do it with your mother and father, okay? Don't go with strangers. Always be with your mother and father. But if you help someone, maybe they will help you. So maybe they'll give you a dollar, or maybe they'll give you a piece of candy, or maybe they'll even just smile at you and say thank you, right? Even if someone smiles and says thank you for your help, that makes you feel happy inside, right? So it just teaches us that we should try to help others, and that if we help others, sometimes those people will help us, okay? Not all the time. You can't always help someone and say, pay me, give me money, give me something. But if you just are nice to people and help them, usually those people will be nice to you too, okay? So that's the lesson that this story is teaching us today. Like I said, though, make sure you're with your parents if you talk to people that you don't know, okay? Okay, now let's go to the next question. Make connections. Think of an animal you know. How could it use its body to help win a game? So we can think of animals. I will think of a giraffe, right? We talked about giraffes before. If a giraffe was playing basketball with me, it could just stand right by the net, right? And I could throw the ball up to it, and it could take its neck, it could catch it, and then drop it right in the basket, right? So that's a way it could help me win a basketball game. Now you can take some time and think about how an animal can help you win a game. Okay? Okay, now let's go to the next page. Genre, nonfiction. Compare texts. Read about how bats live. Bats, bats, bats. A bat is a special animal. There are more than 1,200 kinds of bats. You can also say 1,200. A bat can be black, it can be white, it can be gray, it can have spots. The biggest bat has a wingspan of 6 feet. That means if you take its wings and go all the way out like this, it's 6 feet long. That's a big bat. 6 feet is about 2 meters. A bat is a mammal. So we know a mammal is an animal that has fur and it does not lay eggs, right? Like all mammals, a bat has hair and a backbone. Its mom gives birth to it. It does not come from an egg, and a baby bat drinks its mom's milk. But there is one huge way it is not like any mammal. A bat has wings. Wow. So now let's look at a table comparing bats and birds. Bat or bird? Body part. Ears. Bat. Big ears to hear at night. Bird. No big ears, but has small holes on side of head. Covering, bat. A bat has fur or hair, like this. A bird has feathers. Wings. A bat has 2 wings made of thin skin and hair. 4 fingers and a thumb are on each wing. A bird has 2 wings with feathers. So if we look, we can see that the bat has little fingers here, right? Okay. And now legs. 2 short legs with claws. The bird has 2 long legs with claws. The last part we're going to talk about is the nose. A bat has a big nose that comes in many shapes and sizes. A bird has no nose, but has a bill or a beak. A bat is the only mammal that can fly, but it is not a bird. So a bird is right here, right? Look at the chart. It tells the ways a bat and bird are the same and different. So for example, they're the same because they both have wings, but they're different because the bat's wings are made of thin skin and hair, and the bird's wings are made of feathers, right? Okay. Bats like to make homes in caves and trees. These homes are called roosts. Lots of bats live together in a roost. It is daytime, but the bats stay at home to sleep. They like to hang upside down. So we can see that it's daytime, but the bats are sleeping. And when they sleep, they hang upside down. Like you and me, we lay down, right? We lay on our side. Bats hang upside down. Wow. All right, let's go to the next page. At night, the bat wakes up and hunts. Hunts means it looks for food. How does a bat get food when it can't see? A bat makes a sound. When the sound wave hits something, an echo bounces back. The echo tells the bat if something to eat is close. So it sends out a sound, and if it hits something, it bounces back. And then the bat can do the math inside its head to tell how far away that thing is, right? So if it goes out and then it comes back and it takes 1 second, then maybe the animal or the food is very close. If it goes out and comes back and it takes 5 seconds, then maybe that food is too far away. So the bat has to fly closer, or he has to find a different thing to eat. Okay? Now here's our last page. Bats help people a lot. A bat can eat hundreds of bugs in an hour. This protects crops because the bugs don't eat them. Then the bat drops plant seeds. This helps new plants grow. Bats are our friends. Okay? So bats eat lots of bugs. So if you have mosquitoes that you always keep slapping on your arms, you should be thankful that there are bats. Because if there weren't bats, then there'd be even more bugs. Okay? So our last question today is make connections. Why is a bat a special animal? And so we answered that because we know that a bat is a mammal, right? It has fur, it does not lay eggs, the babies drink their mommy's milk, but it's special because it can also fly, right? It's the only mammal that can fly. So humans can fly, right? You and me can fly, but we have to take an airplane, right? A bat does not need a machine. It just moves its wings and it can fly up into the air, right? So that's what makes it so special. Okay. So that's all we have for today. So it's time for me to say bye-bye. Okay. But I will see you next time. Okay. We're going to talk about more special animals next time. So think about the bat today and think about other animals and how they're special. And next time we'll learn more. Okay? All right. Bye-bye.